Playoff betting preview. Joe Spano at Joe Spano56 on Twitter, and the Mad Journalist, Chris Dell at Mad, M-A-D-D Journalist on Twitter. And part two of the NBA playoff betting preview is going to focus on Game 4, Western Conference Finals, Warriors at Mavericks. We have the Warriors up 3-0. History has shown teams do not come back from being down 3-0. So it's not a question if the Warriors are going to win this series. It's a question of when, and it's a question of where does line value lie for us, and where can we find betting opportunities that give you an edge. That's really what this is all about, because it's only a matter of time. Do they win it tonight, get the sweep, get plenty of rest, come out flat in Game 1 of the NBA Finals, or do the Warriors, as they're wont to do in these situations, sleepwalk through Game 4, play nobody in the fourth quarter, lose by 15 or so tonight, and then go back to Golden State and run the Mavericks out of the gym in Game 5? I think it's a matter of that. Do they take it tonight in a close one, or do the Mavs blow them out? I really think that's what this boils down to. We all know the Warriors are going to win the series. One of my best bets coming in to this round of the playoffs was Warriors minus 1.5 games, and I don't think I'm going to have any problem hitting that play. I've basically got 3 chances to hit it. So
You're looking pretty solid, Joe.
I like my chances on hitting that play, and we gave that to you before the start of this series. We got it at DraftKings at plus 110. That was pretty good price. I'm pretty happy with that play. We played it pretty strong. We gave you a write-up on it. We mentioned it here on the show. And again, I think that one, it's just a matter of time. You could pretty well count your money there. Getting to Game 4 tonight, again, I really thought the Mavericks in Game 3 rather, were going to come back and they were going to get the win at home. When you look at what the Mavericks have done, they've been so dominant on their home court from the first of the year through the end of the regular season, and they were extremely dominant on their home court throughout the playoffs, especially once they got Luka Doncic back. They were absolutely dominant on their home court, so they came into Game 3, and in my mind, I'm like, the Warriors have been a pretty ordinary road team the second half of the season, and I'm sure some of that with the regular season had to do with the myriad of injuries they were dealing with. But even in the playoffs, they had kind of struggled on the road in the postseason. Now, maybe some of it had to do with the spots they were in, and it was the natural and logical spot for a little bit of a letdown. But the realities are the Warriors hadn't played great on the road in the postseason. So when I kind of looked at everything coming together, urgency, everything kind of fell in place for me for 2 plays. The Mavericks and they laid, what was it? It was 2.5. It was the Mavericks minus 2.5 for a smaller play. The big play and the one we hit was the total. We liked that total an awful lot. We liked the under there because, as we had talked about on Thursday, in order for the Mavericks to win, they absolutely had to slow the pace of play down. They couldn't let the pace of play in this series stay in the mid and high 90s the way it was through the first 3 games. There was no path to victory for the Mavericks playing at that pace. Well, they slowed that game down. They got it into the 80s, and they played slow. And that's another situation where we got it right on the pace, and the pace as much as anything else, even more than defensive or offensive efficiency, the lack of possessions just led us to the under. And, so we cashed big there. We kind of like the under here again. We're going to lose a couple of points off that under. I think, what did it close at in Game 3? Was it 218 or 217.5? Something in that area, depending on where you were. It's at 215.5 right now with not a ton of movement, despite a lot of money being placed on the under. And I do like this under. I think the under's a sound play here because, again, if you look at the first two games of the series, the pace of play was in the mid 90s, 95, 96 first two games. Game 3, the Mavs slowed the pace all the way down to 86.04. Now, maybe some of that had to do with the fact the Warriors didn't turn the ball over a lot, which leads into my other play. I'm getting right back on the horse. I'm taking Mavs -1. I got it at -1. Most shops now have it at -1.5. You can still find it -1 in some places. And it's not that the Warriors can't replicate what they did everywhere else offensively. They can shoot it as well as they did in Game 3 because they didn't shoot it great in Game 3. Shot it well enough. They can replicate that without a problem. What I don't believe the Warriors can replicate is only 10 turnovers. As we all know, the Warriors turn the ball over a lot. And I think they've averaged about, I had it right up in my column, I think it was about 16 turnovers a game in the playoffs. For them to turn it, I expect a regression to norm there, and I expect the Warriors to turn it over 15, 16, 17 times. And I think that's going to make a difference in their bottom line. Those turnovers, we all know the Mavericks, we talked about it before Game 3. The Mavericks won't turn those turnovers. They'll turn them into points, but they won't turn them into fast break points because that's just not what they want to do right now. They will even off those turnovers unless they can get an absolute man advantage type break. They're going to peel it out, and they're going to wind clock and look for a look. So I don't necessarily think that the expected turnovers, in my mind, from the Warriors are going to necessarily increase the pace of play here. I think they'll help the Mavs get some easy points, maybe some secondary break stuff or some things along those lines, but I don't necessarily think it speeds up the pace of play. I also think it brings the Warriors' point total down because without a faster pace of play, more turnovers, they're just not getting as many looks. I don't expect a lights-out shooting night from them, maybe something similar to what they did in Game 3, give or take. But I think all told, all these factors, I think it's enough and I expect the Mavericks to shoot a little bit better than they did. Again, they're having their struggles shooting the basketball because of the way they're, the way they're forced to play in this series. So do they shoot lights out? Probably not. Do they shoot better than they did in Game 3 and well enough to win? I believe so. So I like the Mavs. Smaller play here. Again, smaller play on the side. I do like the Mavs -1. 1.5 is fine. Don't play it past 2. And if you really like the Mavs past 2, go on the money line and lay the juice. But the better play for me is the Mavericks under 215.5 because I think the pace is going to be in the 80s again. I think pace is going to be in the 80s again. And while the Mavs will score a few more points, I think the Warriors may score a few less points than they did in Game 3.
Yeah, it's tough to see Dallas's defense doing anything. As you said, like the Warriors didn't even shoot that well from 3 in Game 3 there, but they're just getting 2s at just such an easy clip that what do the Mavericks have at this point? I hope the Mavericks come out and just don't even play Dwight Powell at all. Throw Kleber at center and just pray that Kleber got over the yips that he had in Game 3 where he was simply – him and Bullock were both afraid to shoot the ball in the second half after they put up a goose egg in the first half. So they need those two guys to have at least like half the confidence they had going into this series compared to what they had in Game 3 there. For me, prop-wise, I think the Otto Porter injury actually opens up a lot of opportunities for what we saw in the box score and the advanced stats and data from Game 3 from NBA.com is what I have up here on the split screen is you look at the rebounding opportunities for Golden State specifically. And what we saw is that, okay, Kevon Looney, he's been the leading rebounder. I think that Draymond getting an early foul trouble in Game 2, that opened up the door for Looney to come out and have a breakthrough game and open the door for him to increase his minutes more than I think that Kerr ever thought he would have in this series. So kudos to him. But behind him, not too far away, is Andrew Wiggins with 16 rebounding opportunities in Game 3. Now, in the final box score of those opportunities, those wind up equating to Looney with 12 rebounds and Wiggins with 11. However, you can go to the game leader section on DraftKings right now, and you can get Andrew Wiggins to be the game's leading rebounder at plus 950. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on that, like maybe like a quarter unit, a little bit less, so I can win at least a unit or two if it hits, not really get too burned if it loses. I'm also going to play that in correlation with Andrew Wiggins over 5.5 rebounds. Now, this is a prop you do have to pay a little bit of extra vig. I think most books at this point have moved this prop to 6.5. However, you can still get it at WinBet, at Hard Rock, at a couple different books if you shop around in like the minus 135 to minus 140 range. Now, the reason why I want to play the 5.5 is because you look, you say, oh, well, he had 11. Why wouldn't you just play the 6.5? Well, how I like to do it is looking at the rebounding opportunities in game 3, he had 16. I usually like to take half of that and say, okay, this guy's good for half that number, which is 8. And I like to have that number be at least 2 more than what the market line is.
Right.
So that's how I like to play that. Give me just 1 second, Joe.
Sure. I'll ask you a question while you cough, and you can answer it when you're finished. Now, in a situation like this, because you kind of have a general rule and a way of looking at things. Now, there's an eye test factor here that I see. The Mavericks, generally outside of the handful of minutes that Dwight Powell gets, play incredibly small and can't rebound. And they're getting dusted on the boards by the Warriors. Does that factor in here? Does that make you say, okay, it's a little easier for me to make this play, even if it's not a full 2-rebound edge in the number compared to what I expect, because the Warriors are so much better rebounding the basketball against a much smaller Mavericks team that quite simply just can't rebound?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it has to do with like the Warriors came into game 3 with a specific game plan to have Porter as a key part of the rotation, and they had to adjust on the fly once he went down. And so you're saying that, okay, well, whatever adjustments are made now going into game 4, they know he's not going to play. Those could help Wiggins get more, or it could cut down on Wiggins' rebounding opportunities defensively. Maybe he guards more Luka Doncic one-on-one in situational spots. Maybe he's on certain spots of the court where he's not going to be privy to getting those rebounding opportunities. So that's why I like to leave that buffer there in between. And then also looking at the fact that when you look at Wiggins' rebounds overall, you're saying, okay, well, the Mavericks had a pretty high variance shooting game in terms of shooting extremely poorly. So there are more misses to be had, to where now we could say, okay, well, all of a sudden, a lot of people think the Mavericks might just get this one and finally get a win on their belts. That could mean blowout potential, less minutes. That could also mean that the Mavericks just miss less shots in general, which leads to less rebounding opportunities. So you could see that number go down from what it was in the last game. So that's why sometimes, like, in essence, like, I want to go back. This is like some offseason work for me, like to go back and track what is the hit rate difference on these props when I'm giving myself like a 2-point cushion to like a 3-point cushion. And should I be giving myself a 3-point cushion on some of these props? Maybe I do more so with assists versus rebounds versus combo props, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how I kind of strategize that overall.
To me, like that buffer needs to be there regardless in some ways of matchup or a team's given ability, because that buffer zone is the thing that makes up for mitigating factors.
And it makes up for like the vig you're going to pay. Like even on a standard prop line, you're going to get, let's say on like a regular line, this opens up at over 5.5. And like even decent vig, you're going to be paying minus 115. A lot of books hang that as their average line on props. And in this case, like you got to choose between the 5.5 at minus 140 or the 6.5 at plus money. Now for me, like, a lot of people say, well, just take the plus money, but from what I've seen, from what I've experienced,
it's easier said than done. You take the plus money, you're sitting there, plus money's great when it hits. When it doesn't hit, what do you got?
And it's only one rebound difference, but from what I've seen, like I prefer, because I think from top to bottom overall, like in a given week, I'm playing enough plus money props to make up for that. Where it's not like I'm playing everything minus 140. So I try to pick those spots when I have to on both sides of that. And I will say Steph Curry as well. Like this is another prop that I like for tonight. I gave this out, is Steph Curry over 11 and a half rebounds plus assists combined. Now we've seen Steph Curry, like he's been a ball dominant rebounder in terms of being the point guard in this team. And we've seen Luka Doncic play this role to where essentially like they're trying to get out in the break and they're letting Curry gobble up those rebounds and letting the rest of the guys get down the court. And we've seen that in his rebounding opportunities in the advanced stats that I'm talking about, with 13 rebounding chances in game 3, winds up with 5 overall. Then you look at Curry's potential assist opportunities. There were 15 potential assists in game 3 as well. So now you're seeing, he's good for 7.5 on the assist line. Like that's what I believe that should be. And you look at the rebounds, like he's good for 6.5. So you put those together and you say, okay, well, given this data without Otto Porter in this situation, in this matchup, Curry should be good for like right around 14 potential rebounds and assists per game. And we're seeing the line at 11.5. That's right in my buffer zone that I like to play, where the winning number for this prop is 12. And like the advanced stats show that the number is 14. So I'm getting that 2-point cushion into what I want to see here. And we've also seen Curry, not to mention in the advanced data, just in like the real life final box scores, he's been clearing these numbers pretty easily, which just gives me like another layer of confidence on this prop here. So I really like Curry. Instead of playing one or the other, I think there's a little bit of value on each. And I think there's value playing them combined because we've seen the ceiling for his rebounds in this series. We've seen the ceiling for the assists. And we've seen with the way that the Mavericks came out and tried to defend him in game 3, even more high traps than what we saw in the first 2 games. And those are leading to even more wide open shots for a guy like Klay Thompson. Like Klay Thompson was struggling to get off more than 3 or 4 3-point attempts per game. He had 10 3-point attempts in game 3. So I think those potential assist opportunities, given the fact that the Warriors shot very poorly from 3, what if the Warriors come out and have a good 3-point shooting night, this series is over. So that's why I like the potential assist factor for Curry to potentially go even higher than what we saw in game 3. So that's the combo prop I'm going to play, in addition to the Wiggins over 5.5 rebounds. Sprinkle a little bit on Wiggins to be the game's leading rebounder, plus 950. I think he's much closer to Luka and Looney, who are like both line between plus 175 to plus 200. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on Wiggins to do that. I'm going to play Wiggins over the 5.5 rebounds, and I'm going to play Curry over the 11.5 rebounds plus assists. Those are my favorite props from the Warriors side for this game.
Hey, man, anything you like on the Mavs, or kind of unpredictable?
No, I think there's value on Luka under. I was a little torn last night, like either playing Luka under assists or playing Luka under the rebounds assists that I just mentioned, playing Curry over for. Now, look, like Curry, I'm playing over 11.5. Luka Doncic's rebounds and assist prop is 17.5. Like that's a pretty high number. And when you look at like the advanced data for him, he had 10 potential assists in game 3. That's usually good for like 5 assists per game. Again, we're splitting that number in half. The rebounding is where Luka has thrived in this small ball, small lineup type of Mavericks offense here. So he was good for 19 rebounding opportunities. That means like the rebounding line for him should be at about 9.5. But again, like these combo props, the books juice them up like to where like if you played each separately, it would come out to 17. But when you look at the combo prop, they line it at 17.5. So you're getting that extra half, especially if you want to play the under. Sometimes there could be some sneaky value there. So again, like I see value on both, but I don't want to bet both because if it's just wrong, I don't want to lose 2 bets as opposed to just losing 1.
Sure.
So I'm going to take where I see the biggest cushion here. I see a 3-point cushion. I mean like 3 points. I mean like 3 stat difference between the rebounds and assist combo prop. 17.5 is what the market has right now. The advanced numbers are showing me that should be 14, whereas the assist prop, and you can get plus money on this, which I like. If you're going to play the under assist for Luka, I do like that as well. I'm just not making that an official one for tonight. Is under 7.5, where the line should be probably 5 based off the last game. And again, adjustments can be made here. That's why I want to give myself that cushion. But I'm seeing like a 2.5-point difference in the assist prop. I'm seeing a full 3-point difference or 3.5-point difference on the rebounds plus assist prop. We could see the rebounds tick down a little bit, the assists tick up a little bit, and we've seen him struggle to top this number in the 3 games so far in this series here. So I really like the rebounds and assists under for Luka Doncic, 17.5 tonight. The only other props I'm playing for Dallas, Joe, I like Dorian Finney-Smith over assists. We saw him like be a little bit more of a facilitator for the Mavericks. I'm going to pull up on the split screen here. You could see that the second guy behind Luka, almost as many potential assists as Luka Doncic, were Dorian Finney-Smith and Jalen Brunson. And Dorian Finney-Smith had 3 assists, probably like should have had closer to 4 or 5 based off that data, but the Mavericks just missed so many shots.
Yeah, he did.
He's gone over 1.5 assists now in back-to-back games. That's what the line is. On PointsBet, you can get that around like minus 135. So that's one bet that I do like. We're seeing a nice cushion there between what the final box score said, which is in our favor compared to what the market is, compared to what the advanced data shows us. And then the other one for me is it's just more of like a volume play, is Jalen Brunson over 1.5 3-pointers made. We've seen him now hit this in multiple games as well in this series, and he's taking enough threes per game consistently in order for me to say, hey, look, like even him shooting 33% from 3, he's going to hit this. This is a must-win game. He's one of the top 2 scorers on this team. He's going to get up the shots. So I'm comfortable playing a prop like this, close to even money for Brunson. Whereas like for some other guys like Kleber, Bullock, etc., like Bullock's still at 2.5, juiced over. I just don't know if his confidence is there after game 3. Kleber, I don't know if his confidence is there either. Bertans, how many minutes is he even going to play? And Luka Doncic's 3-point props at 3.5. So I think there's some nice value on Dinwiddie's at 2.5 juiced over. Brunson's still at 1.5. Not known as a 3-point shooter, but he's consistently taking between 6-7 plus threes per game. That's enough to say, hey, this guy can hit 2 threes in a must-win closeout game here. So that's the only other prop I'm playing for Dallas I mentioned is the Brunson over 1.5 3-pointers made.
Perfect. It's interesting, and we've talked about it a lot here on the program. And again, for all our plays, SportsMapElite.com, $19.99 a month, the best bargain in sports wagering information. Again, SportsMapElite.com, $19.99 a month. Get there. You'll get all our official plays. You get our plays here. Plus, you get the analysis here. But you'll get all our plays every day, SportsMapElite.com. And it's just not me and the mad journalist. You got our hockey guys like Fred Fowler and Cullen McPeak. You got Dalton Brown, our lead MLB analyst. So, we've got a nice crew there mixing it up, hitting everything from the horse racing to the mixed martial arts to the boxing to the basketball to the hockey to the football when that comes back. And then you'll have Fred Fowler on the Canadian football as well. So we've always got action where we got an edge for you, SportsMapElite.com. I did want to get to the pro report. And the pro report's pretty telling here, and it's pretty telling in what it doesn't say. You know how I've talked about throughout our shows, as we move through deeper and deeper into these series, it's harder and harder to find line value. Well, the pro report's telling a pretty damning story. You've got sharps on the Mavs at -1. And, a little edge on the handle. It just clicked again. The tickets are being written right down the middle. The Mavericks are getting 57% of the handle. So you're seeing some smart money, a little bit of big money, nothing dominating here. Not the kind of huge signals that you'd love, but a little bit of something, seeing some smart money following the direction we're going makes us feel pretty good. On the total, 49% of the tickets written on the under, 51 on the over, 85% of the money on the under. We like that a lot. We're not getting a sharp action designation on the pro report. We're getting a big muzzy designation, meaning that whoever it is that plunked down the big money or whomever it is that's plunked down the big money, the people at the books don't know who they are. They could be sharps. They could not be. But there's somebody with some big positions on that under, which makes us feel pretty good. Again, we're not seeing the kind of great signals that we always want that really support our plays here. But at this late point in this series, that's about as good as you're going to get. Because if you go and look at the signals going into last night's Game 4 out east, the signals were all over the place. There were no signals. That's how much of a mess it was because of the uncertainty with the health and everything else. So, again, as you move through these series, the odds makers adjust the lines, and there is precious little value. So you're not going to get the great betting signals that you love. Again, we do like the under, and we do like the Mavs. We've got some signals on our side. We think the under is the far better play. But as you've talked about here, just in dissecting some props, there's some pitfalls here too. This number is pretty tight on this under. You know, if either team really goes off shooting and it's the Warriors that get to dictate pace of play, under's in trouble. You know, that under is really based on more turnovers from the Warriors, the Mavericks not getting into transition, and neither team having dominant offensive efforts, and maybe having a situation where it's a potential closeout game where one side or the other gets blown out. That helps a lot of times. You know, you get a situation where, let's say, the Warriors fall asleep here a little bit, you know, kind of like we saw Game 4 against Denver. And let's say they get blown out and they pack up their toys, go back to Golden State and take it there. You could see that happening, and then they don't score, and that helps us. You could see a situation where the Mavs get off to a bad start. Well, guess what happens to teams down 3-0 in their own building, get down by 20 late first half or 15 late first half? They go to halftime, and instead of listening to the halftime speech, they're making tea times for the next day. So you could see a situation potentially where a blowout helps us get the under because one team just doesn't play. So there's enough going in our favor. We like the under as a strong play, but there's some pitfalls along the way. The side, we like the Mavs. We're giving them a little edge. We got some signals in our direction as well. We're not in love with it by any stretch because it's conceivable this goes 4-0 and the Mavs are on the golf course tomorrow.
Yeah. I will just throw in, like, there's a couple like fringe props that I like, but I just don't like the VIG on them. So there's a couple ways I want to work around them. Draymond Green, you know, my favorite prop after game 1 was betting Draymond over 7.7 rebounds per game. Now that's likely not to hit because he's dealt with foul trouble in back-to-back games since then. Still has a chance to hit it. Probably not. We'll see. But if you look at the advanced stats from game 3, Draymond was the leading assist man. Like, he had 17 potential assists compared to Curry's 15 potential assists. So even though Curry more than doubled him in the box score, I think there is some value there to possibly playing both of those guys as the game 4, leading assist man. So you can get Draymond plus 290 to be. He's actually more of a favorite than Curry, which kind of backs up what I'm telling you here for what the numbers show us here behind the scenes. Draymond's plus 290 to lead game 4 in assists. Curry's plus 350. I think there's value betting both, and you could come up nicely here because what I'm seeing from the Maverick side of things in terms of how Golden State has successfully defended Luka, the potential assist numbers are not there for Luka, but the books are still aligning his assists as if like this is an entire season sample of data that we have. So again, I mentioned that I'm playing the under rebounds assists for Luka, that I strongly lean to the under assists for Luka. Well, I think another way to get around that is like playing Green or Curry. It's going to be one of those two guys, like in probably 95 out of 100 scenarios, that lead the game in assists if it's not for Luka Doncic. So I think there's value on both those props. I'd probably be willing to play quarter unit each on something like that as well, because I was already looking at Draymond Green over 5.5 assists. But unfortunately, like, you can get that as like an alt line on FanDuel, but the VIG is like minus 166. Like, it's just too much variance to go either way to where I don't want to pay that because I play to win a unit. So if I'm playing to win a unit on that type of prop and I lose, that means I'm losing 1.66 units. So that's how I track my wagers. But that's just too much for me to pay on that type when Draymond's been so up and down in terms of his emotions in this series. Like, he could get thrown out of this game in the first half and no one would bat an eye. He could also get into foul trouble again. So like, we've been successful betting Draymond Green over on his turnovers. I might go to that again tonight. Although it's like we had to pay minus 170 the last game. Hey, he had two turnovers in the first quarter and we cashed, but he still only finished with 3. So it's still a little bit of a fringy play to pay minus 170 for. Overall, if you're playing Draymond Green over turnovers every night in the playoffs, you've done pretty well. But the market has caught up to that prop still, even over the course of time here. So those are the other places that I'm looking. Again, like game 4 leader and assists. I'd rather play Draymond and Curry combined. You can get some nice plus money value on those. I would also say Jordan Poole. We hit his under rebounds and assist combo prop in the last game, but with no Otto Porter there, I think that adjustments can be made to where Poole has a little more opportunities than usual. If this was like a minus 115, minus 120, I mean, hell, even minus 130, I'd still would probably play Poole under 7.5 rebounds and assists, but the market's moved it to 6.5. And again, FanDuel's offering 7.5, but it's at minus 166, minus 168. Right. I'm just not willing to go there, even though the numbers technically back up the case. Like, you kind of have to draw a line in the sand with the props and the VIG here. And with these types of props, I'm probably cutting myself off at like minus 150. And I feel like even at minus 150, I'm already pushing my luck there. So that's just too much VIG for me to pay. So I'm going to pass on that, even though it was on my hit list coming in this game here. So that's where I'm at overall. And I'm really starting to look in the future, Joe. Like, we'll talk about probably a lot more about this in our next show. It's just like looking at the finals and how we want to attack that. Sure. I actually don't think it's a bad idea to bet the Warriors now to win it all. Let's say you haven't had a single futures ticket all year and you got to pay minus 155 for the Warriors to win it all. I don't think it's a bad bet because like there's so many unknowns coming into this playoffs here. You know, a lot of people thought Phoenix was like the clear-cut favorite to come out of the West, and that obviously didn't happen. And then again, even people thought like, hey, you know, Miami's really good, Boston's really good, but we've seen complete carnage in this Eastern Conference Finals series. Even in the semifinals, we saw carnage between Boston and Milwaukee. Like, these teams are so battered and bruised. Williams' knee is a big issue. Robert Williams for the Celtics. Now Tatum's getting his shoulder tended to on the sidelines. Marcus Smart has an ankle issue. So if these teams were at full strength, I would personally take Boston to beat Golden State in a game series. But the reality is, like, that's not going to be the case. And Golden State's going to have a very long time to rest here, to where, like, I just don't see either of these two Eastern Conference teams having to go through the gauntlet of like they have in the last month. This seems like it's just the Warriors' year. Like, they've had to deal with so many bad injuries over the last 3 to 4 years since they won their last title. Now the variance of injuries is completely in their favor, finally, for the first time, and it feels like forever. All their guys are healthy, and only the fringe guys are hurt. Only Peyton's hurt. Only Otto Porter, Iguodala, Curry, Clay, Draymond. They're as close to 100% as you're going to get in any given series at this time, at this point of these guys' career. So for me personally, I know I missed out on the best of all the numbers up to this point, but I'm strongly considering a play on Golden State, even at minus 155 to win it all. And I'll probably split that bet between that and Curry to win Finals MVP, because let's be frank, like, there's no way the Warriors win this Finals and Curry doesn't win unless he gets hurt. That's just my opinion.
Fair statement, man. What do you say we tie a bow around it, give people time, get their bets in, get some dinner, get in front of the tube, and get ready for a Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals?
Sounds good, Joe. Oh, go walk those dogs and tell them I said what's up, man.
I'm going to do just that, man. For the Mad Journalist, Chris Dell, I'm Joe Spano. We'll see you on Thursday night, and we'll see you at the pay window.
Peace.